welcoming you all to the third, if at all I'm not mistaken, to the third M365 Saturday Bangalore 2021 event. So let's begin by thanking our sponsors because I've been doing a lot of events, talking in a lot of events, and organizing a lot of events. So without sponsors, an event of this sort is not really possible. So let's take a moment to thank them on behalf of all the speakers, all the audiences, and everybody who was behind this. So it's just not about learning today. So you also get to win some exciting prizes. So if you look at the slide here, these are not something which you could simply ignore and miss. So please make sure that you pay attention to all the questions that are being asked. So there is going to be a quiz program towards the end of the day, so wherein you could participate and win all these wonderful goodies. So please make sure that you pay attention, take notes, and you get a chance to win these goodies. So this is the very first session in the IT Pro track. So unless if you're not somebody who's interested in IT Pro, this entire track is going to be on that. So now would be a good time to look at the agenda and move to the dev track. But if you're somebody who's into IT Pro, so you are on the correct track. So today my session is going to be on securing your M365 resources using Azure AD Identity Governance. So we'll be spending the next 50 minutes or so talking in detail about Azure AD Identity Governance, what it means, why you need it in the first place, and if you're not having it, what are the kind of damages that you might be facing in your environment? Not literally a damage, but it's really a good to have capability. So we'll be talking about that. So if at all you're somebody who hasn't used this in the past, just think of this as a session wherein you can get a good overview of what it can offer, so that you can go back, talk to your customers or to your organization, and ask them to start looking at this tool. Little bit about myself. So my name is Vignesh Ganeshan. So I've been in the industry for almost close to 10 plus years now. So I was an active blogger once. I don't do that a lot nowadays, but I used to blog on my own website, which is Vignesh SharePoint Thoughts. Then I used to contribute my articles for European SharePoint Community, Collab 365, C Sharp Corner, and a couple of other blog sites. I've spoken in a plethora of webinars, and I even continue to do that nowadays. And I speak in a couple of user groups and conferences across the globe whenever I find time. So I'm the chapter lead for C Sharp Corner Bangalore chapter, ambassador for AWS India community, and over the years, I completed more than 20 plus Microsoft certifications, and I'm the chief organizer for the Microsoft 365 Power Platform and Cloud Security India user group. So it's been an exciting journey, and that is quite some interesting things which I've done. All right. So let's dive into the core meat of today's presentation, right? So as everybody in the call today knows, Azure AD is a complete IAM solution. Okay, so if you compare this product like 3 or 4 years back, was it a complete IAM solution? Probably the question may be like, well, it depends, right? It was an identity and access management solution, which was predominantly focusing only on the Microsoft ecosystem, right? It was not something which you could compare with Okta or SailPoint for that matter, because a lot of you might be very well aware. So Okta was the first cloud-only identity and access management solution. Okay, when I say cloud-only, those were the guys who had to build a full-fledged identity and access management solution only for the cloud. But later, I mean, Active Directory was there for many, many years. So anybody who has been in IT for more than 20 years now would know how Active Directory came into the picture. And even today, you can't even run an enterprise. You can't imagine an enterprise without the on-prem AD. But today we are all gathered here to understand the functionality of the identity governance in Azure AD, which is the cloud identity and access management solution from the Microsoft service. So, and Azure AD, as we all know, it has a wide range of depth and capabilities for your employees, partners, and customers, right? And these are some good capabilities that it can offer. And this is just not the list. There is a lot which it does. But just due to the just since I wanted to bring up only the core products here, I'm just putting in this. But as of today, Azure AD has a lot that it can offer. But today we are just going to focus on Azure AD Identity Governance. So just think of this scenario here, right? if you look about security in any company you go, you see people talking a lot about security, 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 right? If you want to do this, we want to make sure that you need to be secure, right? And we always want to make sure that, of course, security is a prime factor. So by security, I mean that the right people have the right access to resources. Okay, it should not be more, it should not be less, and it should not be in a scenario that wherein you're giving access to the wrong person who could take it away and do a permanent damage to the company. Okay, so that's what security is all about. But at the very same time, you cannot put your productivity on toss, right? It doesn't mean that you're speaking a lot about security, but people don't really get the access for them to be productive enough and to do their day-to-day job. So it's quite a balance to maintain in any organization. And I believe a lot of you folks would still agree that we are still struggling to meet these balance, right? We want to give people the privilege they want, but at some time we end up giving them more access, or we end up giving them lesser access than what they really want to complete their job. And maintaining the balance has been, quite a complicated thing to do in enterprises these days. So that is where your Azure AD identity governance comes in as a lifesaver. So you can think of Azure AD Identity Governance to help you answer these four primary questions. Okay, so who has or should have access to which resource? Okay, if that is the question that you're thinking about, then you need to start looking at Azure AD Identity Governance, because it is meant to give a good intel on what kind of access is there and who has all this access. And what are they doing with that access, right? Are people really using that access in a proper manner, or they're exploiting the access they have, right? Are there effective organizational controls for managing access? Very, very important, because you could be giving all the access that you need to make sure that people are delivering. But at the end of the day, if you don't have proper controls to manage the access, then it's as good as, you know, killing the entire organization, because in no time people could come in, the information could go in the wrong hand, and before you even realize, a good enough damage would be done to the data that is being stored in your environment. And finally, can auditors verify that the controls are working, right? So if tomorrow folks such as EY or Deloitte or KPMG come knocking at your door, you should be able to prove them that. So this is the data which proves that, I have all the best practices, and be it your customers' data or whatever information from an auditing standpoint, you can just give them the data and ask them to verify that we are well gowned, and there is nothing wrong that we are doing. So this is where your identity governance is all about. So the right controls that ensure secure productivity. So I hope you're getting a little bit overview of what Azure AD identity governance is all about. And as we go through in this session, I'll talk in detail about the different tools it has, different use cases, and what we can do about this. Now, we all need to understand is governance is a journey and not a destination. So what I mean by that is it is not a capability that you can simply deploy and forget, right? And we all know that at least in the world of cloud, nothing works that way. You cannot simply deploy and leave it, right? And that such is the case for governance as well, because you need to constantly keep working on it, because you will never reach a point wherein you can raise your hand and say that, okay, we as an organization, we have achieved complete governance, we are good to go. Nobody can attack us. That's never going to happen, at least in the cloud world. So these are the three pillars that we'll be focusing in our session today. The first thing is identity lifecycle, how you can manage the complete lifecycle of a user's identity using Azure AD Identity Governance. Then the access lifecycle, the access which is given to them, the privilege, okay, and how you could govern the complete access. And finally, privileged access lifecycle. So these are folks who have admin access in your environment. It could be something as big as global admin, or it could be an Azure AD admin, SharePoint admin, Exchange admin, whatever it is. So how do you manage the complete privileged access lifecycle? Okay, so the way I want to do this session today is to focus on a case study. And the case study which I have in front of me is, just imagine an imaginary company by the name, a company named Vignesh Ganeshan. I wish I had a company on my name. So a company named Vignesh Ganeshan is using Office 365 for collaborating with other organizations. So they want to do a campaign. They're doing a campaign. And as a part of this campaign, they want to share contents, documents, or whatever resources they have in Office 365 with a partner company, or even within people, or even within people with their own employees also. Okay. And these are the challenges that they've been constantly facing. For the first challenge, the recent audit discovered too many users had standing privileged access. So they pulled the audit report, and what they figured out is a lot of people are having standing admin privileges. Okay. Legal regulations require users to sign a non-disclosure agreement before having access. So any kind of cloud solution or any solution which is a bit sensitive or any tool, in the beginning of the sign-in process, you should go through a non-disclosure agreement and sign it. Okay, that is a regulation which your legal team is coming up with. We need to streamline the process of getting resources and permissions assigned to users. So there is no proper control of how people can get access. Sometimes you join a company and you're waiting literally for months or weeks just to get that one single access for you to get the work done. And it still happens. Let's be honest to ourselves, right? And no control over external users' lifecycle will like more visibility on guest activity. So basically, folks who have been in the SharePoint world for quite some time, we all would agree to this. We would end up giving access to a third part, to somebody who's not an employee of a company. It could be a guest or a partner. You just give access. Maybe he wanted access just for a day or for a week or two, and none of us does a job in going back and removing the access unless and until we are told to do so. The access lives with him forever, and we just forget it. It's not that we are doing it intentionally, it's just that we forget it with the amount of workload and other priorities that we have. So these are the challenges which this organization is facing. So let's try to understand how identity governance, the tools in identity governance, are going to help to overcome this challenge. So I hope that sets the tone for this session, and let's dive deep and understand. So we'll be focusing about these four different solutions today. So the first one is Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. So the keyword there is privileged identity, which means people who have a higher admin roles, such as your SharePoint admin, maybe an Exchange admin. So how do you govern those accesses, right? The next thing is Azure AD terms of use. So every time you're visiting a sensitive application or any cloud application, your organization wants you to go through a non-disclosure agreement, sign it, and only then you get access. Okay. So the third thing is Azure AD entitlement management. Now the keyword there is entitlement, which means your rights. How do you manage the rights or the access that is given to you? And the last thing is Azure AD access reviews. All right, you've got the access. So how can you review whether you still need the access or you're done? Maybe the work which is given to you is over. I don't see a reason that so and so person should be having this access. Maybe the project is over for him, or he's leaving the company, or it could be any reason, or maybe he's changing the team. Okay. Now these are the four different tools that we are going to focus upon, and let me tell you in the beginning itself. So whatever we are going to discuss about today needs a P2 license. It's an Azure AD P2 license, right? So as there is a good saying, so anything that is good in life doesn't come for free, and that applies for technology also. So if at all you don't have a P2 license, so you don't get to enjoy all this capability. So please be mindful that everything that I'm showing today requires an Azure AD P2 license. So for the first challenge, so a recent audit discovered too many users had standing privileged access. So this is the first challenge that we have in front of us. And the tool which is going to help us to fix this problem is privileged identity management. Yeah. So the name itself says, so the first thing it is going to help you to discover privileged roles. So what are those privileged roles that exist within your environment? Okay. And even though this session is completely focused towards M365, let me tell you that it's not meant for, I'm sorry, don't get the understanding that I can't use this for the Azure side of the house, for your Azure IaaS or Azure PaaS solutions. It's meant for the complete M365, I'm sorry, for the complete Microsoft cloud ecosystem. Okay. But here I'll be focusing only for the M365 resources. It's also going to help you to reduce attack surface and make sure that it's going to reduce the risk. Role activation just in time. It's only when you need it. You don't get to have that access forever, right? That's a problem which organizations have been going across for years now. So, hey, I want just 5 hours to do this job. All right, you get access only for 5 hours. Okay, so you can be that granular. And of course, audit reports for compliance so that you can go back and audit what's happening in your environment. So for this, let me just quickly log in into my demo environment. So I'm logging in as a user called as Adelvens. Let me just go to the Azure AD Blade here. Show all. You would expect that, right? Yeah, Azure Active Directory. So the role which this person has in my environment as of today is global reader, which means this person can read everything in my tenant. So she can only read, she can't do anything else apart from that. Okay. Now, because that's the privilege that has been granted to her. And now she needs to get a higher privileges using identity governance. Let's see how is that possible. So I'll click on the identity governance section here. Okay. So here I am on the identity governance section. Now click on Azure AD roles. So in the identity governance, you'll get everything, right? So let me just go one step back. So your access reviews, so everything that you get to do from an identity governance standpoint, Microsoft has done a wonderful job in bringing everything under one single blade so that you don't need to go looking for where it is. So Azure AD roles, manage access. So now what you need to understand is when I click on my roles here, and this is specific to this user only, okay? When you click on my roles, there are three different things that will show up. One is eligible assignments. So if you see here, the first thing is the active assignment. What is that active role which the user currently has? And we all just saw that it is global reader. Okay. And what she's eligible for is all these other roles. She can just simply come here, click on activate and get that role. And expired means maybe in the past she was given that access and now it has expired. Maybe I removed it, or that role was simply not was taken away from her. Okay. Now let's see how this complete workflow, this complete process goes on. Now, I'll also show you how I can grant somebody this eligible assignment access, but let's just see from this user standpoint for now. Now, this user comes in here. She's maybe let's think of a scenario wherein over the weekend, this user has to perform some kind of activity on Exchange. Okay. So she comes in here, she sees that, okay, I've been given this, I'm eligible to get an Exchange admin role. She comes here, she clicks on activate. Okay. Now just see what happens here. She clicks on activate. Now you could just get granular. You can either say custom activation time. What is this all about? Oops. MFA, there you go. Just give me one quick minute here. Activate. I'm just getting the authenticator app once again here. Let me try to sign in as this user once again. Looks like something is really wrong here. Just give me 1 minute. I don't have the blessings of the demo gods today, but let's see. Copy. Okay, going back to admin. Show all Azure Active Directory.
Hi, Vignesh. Sorry to interrupt here. Just wanted to know, you want to take up all the questions at the end, or you want to?
Yes, that'll really help at the end, towards the end. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
So Azure AD roles, manage. All right, I go back to my roles now. Let's see if this works this time, or else I'll pick up a different role. Okay, so maybe I'll try to activate this. See. All right, this worked. So if you take a look at this, right, you could give the duration, whether you want it for 8 hours or 5 hours, or you could just say a custom activation time and say if you want it for a couple of days, right? I'll just say maybe I want the thing for 8 hours, and I'll just say that need to do some maintenance activity something, right? And I'll just say activate. Now just take a look at the workflow. It gets clicked. It first processes your request and it starts activating your role. It's validating that your activation is successful and activation completed successfully. Okay, so this is when the final stage is complete, it just simply refreshes. Okay, and the admin, who is me, would be getting an email saying that, hey, the so and so person who has been given, who's eligible for this role, has went ahead and activated it. Now that mail would take a few minutes to come up, but in the meantime, I'll just show you how it's gonna look like, right? So PIM, so something like that. So I'll just let that mail come up. Yeah, let's take a look at this. So Adel Venz activated the authentication administrator role for the Vignesh Ganesh for this, and it's just telling me like, hey, this is what is going to happen, right? And then she gets to start doing her job, and it also keeps me notified that she has gone ahead and done it, and I can completely verify that, okay, this all looks good to go, right? Now, how did I even all make this possible, right? Now, I'll show it from a global admin standpoint, that how I assigned this role to her and how that workflow kicked in, right? So now this is me logging in as a global admin into my tenant, right? So I come in here and I'm going to the my roles blade here, Azure AD roles. And let me pick a role here. Now you could see all the roles here which exist in my tenant. So this is just not M365, this is Azure, compliance, device, everything put together. Now for the sake of our discussion here, let me pick something like Dynamics 365 administrator, maybe. Then I just come in here and I click on add assignment. Now when I say add an assignment, it is gonna ask me, okay, whom do you want to add this assignment to? So then I come in here, then I put in Adelvin's name, I say select, okay, and next. And this is where you need to be very cautious. Either you get to give the role permanently eligible, or maybe, when I say active, it is active forever, right? When I say eligible, they are eligible, but they need to go ahead and activate it. That's what it means, okay? I don't want to make it permanently eligible, so I can just come in here and I can choose for how long it should be, like from this time to this time, or you could keep it for a year or 6 months, 1 month, whatever, and just click on assign. Okay. Now, the moment I assign this will start showing up on that user, which is when she can go through the process which I just showed, and she can activate it for herself. So so now that we all understand that, it was time bound, she gets to use the access only when it is required. See, the Dynamics 365 stuff showed up. And from an auditing standpoint, you can always go back here and you can start looking at the complete my audit history. So who has done what, when was it activated, what did they do? So everything gets audited. And if at all you want to flash it to any of the tools that you're using, monitoring tool, you could very well go ahead and do it. Okay. Now that is all about the first demo. If at all you have any questions on this, please keep it coming on the chat. Now for the challenge 2, legal regulations require users to sign a non-disclosure agreement before having access. And this is a challenge that we all have in our companies, right? For this, the tool that I want to talk about is terms of use. Okay, it's a simple method to present information to end users and requiring their consent after authentication and even prior to getting access. Okay, so you could configure a terms of use document. It could be possibly a PDF, right? And you can either target it to a specific set of people or to everybody in your company. It could so happen that you can just target it for only a given application. It totally depends on the business need. I worked for a customer where only for Yammer they had it. So when the person is signing up for Yammer for the first time, They have to go through all that process, make sure that they understand the rules, and only then they get to start using Yammer. You can enforce acceptance of terms of users in the scope, and of course, you get to audit everything. Okay. Now, there are some common reasons why any organization would be interested on terms of use. The top common reasons here are general terms of use for all users in your organization. Maybe as per your organization need, maybe any cloud application or any application that you want to access, you want people to go through the general terms of use, or define specific terms of use based on user types and application sensitivity. That could also be a scenario, and assist in meeting GDPR and privacy regulations, which is really, really a big thing these days, right? So what if there are some personal information or some PII or PHI information that is being discussed, and you really need to be mindful of those conversations or those content being shared in that particular application. So you have to make sure that you read the terms of use, you accept it, and only then you get to use that. And of course, for compliance and audit, because if the legal team wants to make sure that people are really mindful of what they are doing, then they make sure that you go through the terms of use. So tomorrow you can't go back to them and say that I'm sorry, I was not really aware of that, because the terms of use showed up, and it is your job to read it and make sure that you abide by that. And what I was seeing towards your right hand side, this is the end user experience. And of course, I'll be showing a demo on this. The deployment process is pretty simple. So you create a terms of use. Maybe you want to work with your legal team or security team, work with them and get the terms of use document. And you can enforce this at the sign-in using conditional access. So the user consents to it by accepting it. And then, of course, you can review later if at all you want to make sure that people are following it properly. Okay. Now, let's see this in demo here. So what I have here is, let me go back to this. I'll go back to identity governance here. So here I have terms of use. Now these are some previous terms of use which I have created. Let me create a new terms of use for you folks here. I'm just going to call this as M365 BLR demo. Okay, that's the name, and the display name would be the same, terms of use document. For the sake of our demo here, I'm going to pick up a demo content, but in the real world, you need to work with your organization to get this. The best part is it supports multiple languages, and you could have multiple versions. Okay, I'm going to choose English. Require users to expand, because we all know, and that is the way we also operate. We just simply say next, 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 next. So if at all you want your people to make sure that they expand the document, they spend some time reading it, then make sure that this is done. Require users to consent on every device, like every maybe mobile, any device that they're using it. You want you want to make sure that they consent for it. If yes, then you need to click on this on, but make sure that the device is Azure AD joined. Expires consent, like how you want it to expire. Then in that case, then you can specify the given time frame. Duration before reacceptance is required. You want to keep doing it within a given time frame. So I'm just going to say like 100 days or whatever, right? And then enforce with the conditional access policy. So I'm just going to say I'll create a conditional access policy for this later. So I'll create this terms of use. While this is getting created, let me go back to and I'll create a conditional access policy for this. Okay, so I'm here on my conditional access blade. I'll create a new policy. I'm going to call this as M365 BLR TOU demo. Okay, so users and workloads, of course, you can put it for all the users, but for the sake of our demo here, I'm just going to give it to a specific user. Maybe I'll choose Alex here. Okay, and you want it for a specific cloud app or all cloud app. I'll say all cloud app. And conditions, this is, we are not really bringing in any condition here because we want it to come on everything. So on the grant, this is where you need to pay close attention. I'm going to grant access here. You can choose that particular terms of use that you created. Okay, I'll just say select, and you can just simply click on and say create. Now I'm not going to create this because I already have one created, which is this conditional, which is this terms of use. So let's see how this works. Let's see the demo for this. So I'll sign out, close this. Now I have a different demo user here, office.com. user. I hope this works. Let it come up. Next. Okay, now take a look at this. Take a look at the URL. It takes me to this. It says that, hey, this is taking to the conditional access. So I can't just simply click on accept. It's going to say that, hey, you got to expand and review it. I'll expand this. I'll review it. And then I say accept. And after which I get to start accessing the application. It's very simple, but a very powerful tool if your organization has such a need. Okay, I'll say accept. Okay, it's asking me to do the MFA because it's a new user, but I hope you all get the picture, right? So it'll take me through the MFA process. I don't want to spend my time on that, but just so you understand. Okay, now for the third challenge, right? So we need to streamline the process of getting resources and permissions assigned to users. Okay, that's once again a bigger problem. Let's say new employees are joining the compensation. I'm sorry that they're joining the company, and maybe they are waiting for a good at least for a month or two just to get access, and that happens quite often in every organization, right? So there should be a proper process in place so that we make sure that they're getting access to the resources and they're also getting the right permission. Okay. So for this, the tool which I want to introduce is Azure AD Entitlement Management. Now the keyword that is entitlement. Okay. I mean, literally, it means that the rights that you have. So there are two things that you need to focus on this. We have something called as a catalog and then as an access package. Okay. Now this could be a lot more technical. Let me simplify it for you. So when I say a catalog, it is nothing but the resources to which people need access. It could be a SharePoint site. It could be a cloud application, or it could be a Microsoft team, or it could be even a group. Okay. And on the other side, an access package is nothing but you're collecting all these permissions across these apps. It's basically the permissions which is tied to these resources. Okay. And what are those resources that you can normally give access to using Azure AD Entitlement Management? As of today, it is group membership, okay, cloud apps, even on-premises apps, as long as it is going through Azure AD. And then finally to your SharePoint Online and Teams. Okay, so I'll be showing a detailed demo of this so that you see this in action. But just so you know that this is not something which is only meant for guests or something, right? So you could even do it for your own users. Maybe you have a very sensitive SharePoint site or Teams where you want people to make sure that they have only time-bound permissions, maybe for a month or two, and after that you want them to go outside. And then you could also you could so set it up that for 180 days you could set up the renewal period. So when I'm showing the demo, you'll see this in action. So let me get into that. So for this, I'm going to go back to once again to the Azure AD Identity Governance blade here. Identity governance. The best part is you get everything together in one single place. So catalog is nothing but the place wherein you would go ahead and put all the resources that you need together. You can either come in here, create the catalog first, and then go and create an access package. Or while you're creating the access package itself, you can create the catalog. So just watch me do this. So I'm going to call this as M365 BLR demo. Okay. Description, I'll just give the same here. Catalog, you could create a new catalog, or as I said, if you have already created a catalog in the previous tab which I just showed previous, you can just come and choose it here. But for our discussion here, I will create the catalog M365 BLR demo. Yes. So next is where you choose the resources. So I'll choose the group and team. So maybe access review. So this is the group which I want to choose. So these are all the resources which people should get access to. And then I'll choose the team. So I just created a team by the name M365 BLR. I'll just choose that. Okay. And just you could also specify what role. or what privilege or what permission they should get. I'll just say member. And for this team, I want them to be just a member. Applications, of course, if you have any cloud or on-prem applications. So I'm going to choose this test app, say select. I'm going to give default access here. And then the SharePoint site, I'll just choose M365. Okay, I'll choose this. So these are all the resources which is tied to this catalog. Or okay, so just basically think of it as a package to which people need, against which people need to get their access. I'm going to say members. Okay. Next request. Okay, so here is where you need to pay very close attention. So users who can request access. So do you want for users in your directory, for users who are not in your directory, or an administrator directly assign the access? So it depends. So based upon your business need, you would choose what you want. But for the sake of our demo here, I'll choose for users in your directory, because let's think of a scenario wherein we want to do this for our own internal employees. So these are new folks who have joined the company and they need to get access. Let's think of that scenario. Specific users and groups, all members excluding guests, or all users including guests. So do they require approval when they're requesting access for this? Of course, they request approval. I'll go and say yes. Require requester justification? Yes. And how many stages do you want? One stage? Is it like the manager approves it first, then it goes for the second stage of approval? Do you want it to keep it like that, or you don't want to bother people in the higher up? It's just the manager. You could do that also. Or if there is a specific person that you want to specify, you could do that as well. Now, since this is a demo tenant, I don't really have the hierarchy set, so I'll just go ahead and choose myself. Yeah, select. Decision must be made in how many days? Okay, so this is where the fallback comes into picture. So I'll just set it 14 days. Okay, yes. If no action taken. Now this is quite self-explanatory. If within 10 days or 14 days, if the person who's supposed to approve it doesn't approve it, who should be the next, who should the approval get forwarded to? So you get to build the complete workflow. It's quite intuitive, as you could see. And enable new requests. So which means, just take a look at this. When disabled, no new request can be made using this policy. It's just a one-time thing. Okay, I'll just say yes, because I want this policy to be reused. Okay, I'll say next requester information. You can just put in some questions, answer format and all, but this is not a mandatory thing. I'm just simply going to skip this. A life cycle. So this is where you define the expiration package, right? Number of days, number of hours. I'll just say 100. And access review. Of course, this is part of the second demo, but as I said, right, how frequently do you want to come back and review this access? How maybe as a manager you want to review, or as the owner of the particular SharePoint site, team, or application, you want to constantly review and make sure that it is only the people who are meant to have access are having the access. Okay. Required access, yes. Duration in days, I'll just say 100. Specific self-review, specific reviewers, you can just specify, and I'll just say myself. Think we just have a few more minutes left. I'll just run through this quickly. Please add reviewer next. Just say 50. Good. Next. I'll skip this review and create, so you can take a complete overview. Just make sure that you have done it properly. And then I'll say create. So what we have all done is we have just created a package, put the proper resources into it, given the right permissions. So it's going to create a complete package. So as people join your company, you can just give the link to the package and say, so here it is, just go and request access and I'll start approving it. You don't need to keep coming to me for every time you need access. You can just send it to a group of people or however you want to do it. So this is that link that you can copy. Okay, I'll just copy this link. And in the real world, you would be sending an email or whatever. But for the sake of our discussion here, I will just directly put it inside and I'll log in. But you could just send it in a welcome email, send an email to a group of people, whatever you feel comfortable with. Now, for the sake of this, Okay. Now I'll paste the URL for this access package. Come on. Yeah, there you go. Just started loading up M365 BLR demo. So business justification, you could tell that new joiner in the team, whatever, right? I can put in the complete content request for a specific period. You could just put in the start date and end date, or here I'm just gonna not specify anything. I'll just simply say submit. So submitting your access request. Okay. So the moment I do this, so I will be getting, because I'm the owner of all these resources, or if at all you're specifying, you just, I mean, we all saw, you guys just saw me specifying myself as the approver for this. So I should be getting an email saying that, hey, so-and-so person is trying to request access. Why don't you just go ahead and grant access to that person, or approve it, right? Now, as I said, this mail is just going to take a while to come up. So I'll just show you what this would look like. Uh, Come on. Or on the other hand, what I could even do is, of course, this is going to click and I'm going to get an email, but it'll just take a minute or two to come up. And but just so you know, like how this thing would work is like this. Request history. You could also see the previous things which I just requested. And let me also open this from my end so that you guys can see it in action. This.
A quick heads up, Vijay, you have got 2 more minutes
Sure.
and another 5 more
Sure.
minutes for your question and answer section.
Got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
So approvals, if you see here, this started showing up in my, of course, this is should be supposed to trigger an email. So that email will take a minute or so to come up, but yeah, there you go. It just came up. So I can read through everything, blah, blah, blah. I can just come in here and say approve or deny this request. I can just come in, read through this, and I can just simply say, okay, this looks good. Maybe this person wants access to this package. All right, looks good, approve. And I can just put in, okay, approved, and I'll simply approve it. Okay, that's it. Now for the last thing which I want to show for the last scenario is, for the last problem is, no control over external users lifecycle will like more visibility on guest activity. Okay, which simply means there is no control over the permission which people are having. People get access, but the access lives with them forever. There is no control about how we can take up it. It could be for a guest user or it could be for a full-time user. And for this, the tool that I want to introduce is Azure AD Access Reviews. So the name itself says, which means you have to review your access frequently. Okay. And it so happens in organizations that you're part of one particular team or business unit and you change roles, but whatever resources you've been granted access to, that gets carried with you. And nobody does a wonderful job in removing that access, right? So your Azure AD Access Review comes in just to take care of that. And it could be scenarios wherein for employees, as I said, people change or leave the company, but the access gets carried away with them. Or for your external users, wherein you're supposed to give them access only for a given amount of time, but the access lives there forever, which is not really good. Okay. And I'll just quickly push through these slides. And access review process, you need to identify where users have access, identify the business owner for confirming user access, and maybe later when you get the slide, you can go through this, but I'll just quickly show a demo of this. Of course, a demo will help you understand this much more better. I'll go back here. I'll go back to the identity governance plate. So access review. So of course, you can get a complete overview of whatever review has been done using the overview blade. But to be just quick here, I'll just completely create an access review package. This one is going to be little short. Access review, come up. Okay, I'll create a new access review. It's going to ask me, okay, select what do you want to review? I'm going to say I want to review people's permissions on teams and groups. You want to do it for all the groups or just a specific team? I'll just say for a specific group. Okay, it's going to ask me which group. I'll just say M365 BLR, which I just created. So I want to make sure that the permission which people have on this has to be reviewed frequently. Do you want to do it for guest users or for all users? Well, in a real world, you would be doing it for guest users, but I'll just pick all users here because I don't really have any guests in my tenant for now. Next review, select reviewers. Whom do you want to review? The owner of that group, specific reviewer, I'll say group owner. Set fallback if at all you want to do that. Duration, how frequently? I'll just say 10 days. Review recurrence, quarterly, maybe. Start date and end. How do you want to end it? I'll say I'll end after 5 occurrences. Okay, done. Next settings. I'll just leave it as it is. Review and create. Review name, I'll say M365 Teams Access View. Okay. I'll just say quickly say create. Done. It's been created. Now, the moment I create this, what will really happen is this thing will trigger an email to me saying that, hey, that is an access review. Since you're the owner of this group, you might want to go ahead and review that access and make sure that it's the right people who have the access and, requires it. This is how the mail will come up. I'll just, because this mail will take some time to come up, but just so you know, just come back here and you could see. I've already approved this, but in the real world, what would happen is you can just come in here and you can say, okay, these are all the people who have access to this. Should they still continue the access, or you can also simply say deny. Okay, I'll just come in here and say approve. Looks good, approved, because looks like they need to carry on with that access. You can just simply come in and approve that access. Okay, but you can just wait for that email. It's going to take a few minutes to come up, but we don't really have that time. I'll just keep moving on. So session takeaways, just make sure that Azure AD governance can help, Azure AD can help address identity governance requirements, create access reviews and gain better control of the user's lifecycle. If at all you haven't done it, just go and discover privileged account in your tenant and convert them to eligible. Do not do that mistake of granting that standing access ever. At least after this session, please go ahead and make sure that you're taking that away and ensure that all your compliance requirements are met using Azure AD. Okay. So at the end, so with all these 4 tools, we understood the power of Azure AD Identity Governance, and it is going to help us take care of all these requirements which an enterprise might have as of today. These are some wonderful references, which if at all you're interested in deploying this solution, you can go ahead and take a look. And we would really appreciate your feedback. So please take out your smartphone, scan it, and give your feedback. And also, you can also give your feedback using this URL also. Okay, I'll put it in the chat later. Now, the next session is going to be by my wonderful friend Satish. He's going to talk about people-powered workspace using Microsoft Viva. And thank you, folks. You've been wonderful audiences. And please, please do not forget to participate in the quiz at the end and receive all those wonderful goodies. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Vignesh. Before we sign off from your session, you got a question from Ravi. That's how is the global reader user able to self-grant elevated privileged access role? If you can take a quick look on the chat, I think you can answer. That should be great help for
See,
Ravi.
global reader user able to self-grant privileged access role. I don't quite understand, because what we saw is the global reader was the active assignment. That was a permanent assignment or was a permanent role granted to that user. However, there were certain roles which me as a global admin granted to that user, saying that, hey, this guy is eligible for this. So every time he goes and clicks and say that, hey, that is a work which I need to perform. Since I'm eligible for it, I'm just going to click on activate. It triggers a workflow. I approve it. And only then he gets to do that access. So what you need to understand is that is a privilege which gets to live with him, which is permanent. due to the nature of his job, and there are certain roles which he gets to enjoy only for it. He's eligible for it, but it doesn't live with him forever. I hope that clarifies.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Vignesh. Yeah, fantastic. I think that helped Ravi.
Yeah,
Thanks for your wonderful session, as usual, Vignesh.
awesome. Thanks, folks.
Satish, are you there?
Yeah, give me a
You
minute.
can share your screen and
Yes.
we'll just start in a minute. Yeah, I'm able to see your screen. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Vijay. Thanks for hosting me here, and it was an excellent session, excellent start by Vignesh and Chen. Thanks for the opportunity to Vijay and Chen. Hope all of us. Am I audible, Vijay? Am I
Yeah,
audible,
yeah.
and whether my screen is visible to you?
Yeah, Satish, I'm able to hear you and your screen is visible. Yeah, you can
It's
go ahead.
loud and clear.
Yes,
Okay.
it's loud
Thank
and
you.
clear.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And this is going to be the second session of the day. And I would like to, before even getting started, I would like to thank the sponsors like Microsoft, Pantera, Soho Dragon, and JPower4, Quiz.com. And we have like all these things already. Vignesh might have explained, so I don't want to spend much time on these things. So today we are going to see about like people-powered workspace using Microsoft Viva. Like Viva, for the last 6 to 8 months, we have people are hearing about Viva, and we are getting a lot of emails every day on our Outlook without even opening it. Simply we are deleting it, right? So today we will have a deep look what is Viva and what made Microsoft to create a product like this, because already in Microsoft 365 platform,